Hello everybody, welcome back to series on Sass. Now if you have missed the last video in which I go over what is Sass, why we need Sass, how to install and set up Sass to get your CSS files, and also introduction to using a Sass variable, you can just check that video out in the card annotation right here, or it will be in the description along with the playlist link to the whole series if you're someone from the future. But in this video, we are going to look at an important feature which Sass introduces, which basically saves you from writing a lot of redundant CSS selectors, which is called as nesting. Now to understand nesting and what it really does, let's take an example of a list which you have in your markup. Now, generally when you have a list in your markup, it's going to be a UI or OL, which is going to have a bunch of LIs inside of it, and you are going to style and how you generally style them in your CSS is in somewhat this fashion. So you have a UI selector, and inside of it you have some kind of style over here. So your style goes here, and then you create another block of your style, which would be basically UI descendant selector or spacebar li, and then give your styling over here. And at the very first glance, this is not so readable and easily understandable, and not even that maintainable, because you're writing your style for UIs somewhere in your style sheet, and your LIs which belong to your UIs somewhere else on your style sheet. And then if you want to change something, you have to find your UI. But if say there is some kind of styling in between, and you come to the conclusion of writing some styles afterwards, so there is a lot of styles in between, you would be forced into searching your UI li selectors. And to come up with the solution, this problem, Sass introduces nesting, which basically allows you to write a selector inside of another selector. So if I were to, I'm so sorry for that. Let's do, and you can just simply write your li inside of your UI. And if I write any style for it, for example, let's just say some normal style of none, list style of none, and giving your LIs like a color of magenta. And if I just save this, it's going to compile down to the CSS which you really need, but the code which you have written in your Sass is a lot more easily understandable and maintainable. You don't have to keep searching for your UI or the li under your UIs inside of your style sheet. All you need to search is for your UI, and then you will find a li right inside of it. And this is not limited to like the descendant operator combinator. You can use any combinator. For example, let's create another class. So if you're not aware of CSS combinators, the spacebar over here is basically a descendant combinator. I'm so sorry, the spacebar in between this. And there are other combinators also. For example, let's say we have a parent class, and it has a descendant. I don't know the spelling. I hope the spelling is correct. And we have a descendant class which will be having some other styling inside of it. And then you have the child, which is let's just name it child because I cannot think of any other name. And then there is also the sibling or the adjacent class, so which will be having a combinator of plus operator. Let's just call it sibling, and it'll have some style inside of it. Now, if you don't know about CSS combinators, this is basically a child combinator, and this is the adjacent combinator. So it's basically going to search for a sibling class which is adjacent to a parent class, and then it's going to apply the styling. And a child class and adjacent descendant class might be a little bit confusing, but a simple example for that is you are a descendant of both your parent and your grandparent, but you are not the child of your grandparent. So child is going to be like directly under your parent class, but a descendant can be anywhere under your parent class. I can make a video about this in detail in like future. If you want to, give me one of the like buttons of this comment down below, so that we are well aware of that. So let me just give it some kind of style over here. So let me just give it a color of red, and I'm gonna give the sibling the color of cyan for some reason. Now, clearly the styling which I am doing here won't be really used in any kind of production, but this is just for you to understand the different aspect of Sass and just to grasp on the concept. And let's give it a purple color for the descendant. And if I have to save this, you can just see, and it's going to compile to your CSS and in a good manner. Now, coming back to our list example, let me just remove this parent class because we don't really need it anymore. Suppose I wanted to add like a hover effect to my li, and to do that, you might think the easy solution would be to add the pseudo hover class to nested inside of your li. So something like this, and let's just change the color to, I don't know, red. And when I save this, you see that it's not the correct way of declaring a pseudo class for your list. Or for any selector that for say, because you're having a descendant combinator in between or a space bar in between them. So how can you have your pseudo element right after your selector? And to do that, you might think, hey, let's just add an li over here and that might solve the solution. But that doesn't also solve your solution, to be honest. What the hell? All right. Because now you are adding a hover effect for the list or list element inside of your list element, or say in the tags, you are declaring a hover inside of your li element inside of the li element. How can you add a hover effect to the first li element? And well, you might then think of doing this, and which does do the work. But again, your styling is a little bit redundant because you're writing a effect for your li outside of your li, and for overcoming this, Sass introduces an operator, which is, or to be correct, a symbol, which is the ampersand symbol. Now what ampersand does, it basically puts the hover right after the li. So if I were to give it like now a color of red, and if to save that, it's going to compile into the right CSS format. So your CSS file is not showing any difference because we already had the thing working for us before, but this is a more cleaner solution of declaring your hover effects or your pseudo elements for or pseudo classes for any selector which you want. Alright, so that was nesting in Sass, and it's already, it might be already clear to you how it makes your style sheet a lot more easier to maintain and well, a lot cleaner in that aspect. But also I forgot to mention one thing, but that is you can nest however deep you want to go. So you can have like 8, 10, 15 layers of nesting one into one another, but I wouldn't really recommend doing that because after like third or fourth level of indentation or fourth level of nesting, the style sheet just starts to become a lot more confusing if you go beyond like 3 or 4 nested levels. So keep your nesting to like 3 or 4 levels, and if needed more nesting, just create a helper class which would be doing that kind of a nesting, which would be a lot more easier for you to deal with. So I hope you guys learned about nesting and also understood how nesting really works. If you have any doubts, just comment it down below in the description. As I said in the beginning of the video, if you have missed the last part, there will be card narration right popping over here to the playlist of this whole series. If you are from the future, there are also link down below in the description, and also this will be popping up right now over here for you guys. So I hope to see you guys in the next video, in which we'll be going over mixins in Sass. Bye bye.